Welcome everybody. My name is Tali White from the Indigenous Peoples Learning Network, and we aim to help you to identify mankind's 4 greatest threats and then provide you with the best possible solutions to these horrendous threats to mankind. The purpose of this presentation is to identify the threats to your future and to reveal them in order from the most severe to the least severe of the 4 greatest threats to humanity. These being: number 1, mass population displacement; number 2, the domino stock market crash; number 3, UN Agenda 21; number 4, climate change impacts. As you can see, climate change is not the greatest threat to humanity, and we will show you how mankind has been deceived by the United Nations and the wealthy elite people who control the world. The benefits of watching this presentation is the marvellous insight you will gain about the future and how to gain happiness, safety and security during this extremely critical time period in mankind's history, which is fraught with global economic instability, deception, greed, corruption and geopolitical chaos, which is about to become even more catastrophic, leaving the bulk of humanity faint out of fear of the 13 global crises coming upon us due to mankind's inability to govern ourselves and develop happy, functional communities that benefit all humanity and not just the wealthy and elite. Man has dominated man to our own ruin and to the ruination of the earth, leaving no hope for our children and for our children's children. So we will help you to see the 4 major threats occurring in the next 6 months and help you to start thinking about developing a critical survival plan to enable yourself and your loved ones to survive the 13 global crises coming upon mankind, and to also capitalise on the domino stock market crash by developing an effective wealth creation plan. Because in every past recession, big companies were suddenly developed, and these rose up out of the economic chaos and grew wealthy and prosperous by simply solving people's problems and improving their quality of life. And they rebuilt their economies by positioning their corporations and their nations at the front end of the new rising global revolutions. And by doing this, they generated immense wealth and prosperity for themselves and for the people who loyally followed them and joined their amazing business ventures. Our speaker is the Chief Advisor for our new and unique sustainable nation-building industry. He has conducted 14 sustainability projects over 30 years to develop 5 new and unique industries to stabilise our climate system, totally independent of the corrupt and very deceptive United Nations and their evil Agenda 21, with its so-called sustainable development for the 21st century, which is the world's biggest mass deception of all humanity, because the 179 nations and their political parties driving Agenda 21 utilise their so-called environmental and humanitarian-based projects and numerous climate change treaties for the purpose of regeneralisation, leading to globalisation, with the hidden objective of developing a new world order. With their corporate-controlled, militarized one world government, ultimately controlled by the perpetrators of the 9/11 attack on America, who are the wealthy elite who control the world, and have financed both sides of all the wars where America has attacked 70 other nations in the past 200 years. These wealthy elite rulers of the world aim to dominate mankind, utilising the Agenda 21, one world government, to bring their Agenda 21 vision to fruition, which is to depopulate humanity by 6 billion people. And we will now bring this horrendous threat to humanity to your awareness. Our speaker has extensive military experience, having served in the elite Royal New Zealand Air Force for 10 years. Plus, he has an extensive background in advanced human development and social sciences, and he is a specialist in developing social capital. Having moved into virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, hologram technologies, and artificial intelligence for the recruitment, training, and development of millions of people required for the rapid mass production of thousands of corporate-owned and operated sustainable villages and sustainable cities in paradise, scheduled for rollout throughout the frontier and emerging markets in 2020 after the fossil fuel and automobile companies have become bankrupt from the fast approaching domino stock market crash, due to hit sometime between November, which is next month, and before February of 2020. Our speaker was the Indigenous leader who pioneered our Sustainable Cities in Paradise. Green Cities project comprising the construction of a corporate-owned and operated network of debt-free, zero-emission, green infrastructure projects with a dynamic team of world-leading architects, passive solar design architects, permaculture experts, environmental scientists, social scientists, sustainability experts, renewable energy experts, Indigenous leader economists, international accountants, and lawyers and political advisors. This team developed our fabulous flagship, Sustainable Cities in Paradise, that do not use fossil fuels or automobiles, and these legitimate and authentic sustainable precincts will have less than 1% impact on the natural environment when constructed in a beautiful, pristine tropical forest on the sides of a major river or in an island paradise. Now, these massive sustainable cities in paradise can only be brought to fruition by finding, training and developing decent, good-hearted people suitable for being employed by the green corporations responsible for these construction projects and to reside in these precincts. This team also developed our engineered transmigration initiative to give us the ability to rapidly mass produce thousands of corporate-owned and operated sustainable villages and sustainable cities in paradise, fast enough to transmigrate millions of people from around the world into these safe living environments and out of the dangerous towns, cities and nations that will soon be afflicted by fuel and food shortages, major civil unrest and uncontrolled crime and violence, which will threaten the health, well-being and safety of their loved ones, friends and business associates. We have completed our 30-year innovation of this sustainable nation building industry and are now moving into the early adopters phase. And at this moment, our Indigenous Peoples Learning Network is the marketing and promotions arm responsible for launching these projects into our global marketplace in a discreet manner. To do this, we utilise a dynamic, automated, digitised recruitment, training and profiling system to screen out the people and organisations that do not align to our vision, which is to create a happy future for our children and for our children's children, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous. It also eliminates time wasters and nasty or indecent people, while continually attracting only the decent, good-hearted people from all walks of life who want to be decent citizens, showing love and respect for other people, and who are indigenously friendly, child-friendly and environmentally friendly, and can live in true peace and harmony with our fellow man, wildlife and our wonderful environment. Please welcome our speaker, James Hemi Newman.
Hello everybody. Here's our vision. Our vision from the top of our organisation. This is the chairman of our steering group for our sustainable nation building industry, right down to the janitor in one of our sustainable villages. The vision is simple: to create a happy future for our children and for our children's children, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous. Now the reason we say non-Indigenous is because our marketing arm is the Indigenous Peoples Learning Network. So we don't want for the Indigenous children to say, oh, that's Indigenous, got nothing to do with us. No, this is the marketing arm. So we want all the non-Indigenous children coming to learn from us, because it's actually us Indigenous peoples who have the key to sustainability, which is social sustainability. So they need to learn from us, because the non-Indigenous peoples simply don't have the answers, because they were not raised in a socially sustainable environment. So here's our vision, and I'm a New Zealand Maori from the Ngāti Kahungunu Maori iwi or tribe, and on my mum's side, on my dad's side, he is from Tuhoi and Te Arawa. And this is a young Maori girl here, so you might think I favour her, right? But in the middle here we have all the children here from all nationalities, creeds, colours, races, and we really don't care what religion you are, whether you're a Muslim, whether you're a Catholic, whether you're a Jehovah's Witness, whether you are Mormon or whatever. It doesn't matter to us. We have no prejudice against anyone on your nationality, your level of education. It doesn't matter to us. You do not need an education when you come to us to live in our sustainable precincts. Also, the car you drive, the amount of money you got, your education level, it means nothing to us. And with our children here, it's open book. We don't care where they come from, rich or poor. Children are children, and our vision, as you can see there, is to create a happy future for our children and for our children's children, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous. Now if you look here, this one on the right, she's a little girl in a slum in India. Now ask yourself, who do I favour out of these children here? Is it the Maori girl on the left hand side who's part of my culture? Is it the children in the middle from well-to-do families? Or is it this little girl on the right in the slum? Well, the reality is it's the little girl on the right in the slum, because she is the one that when we give her an education, we give her a laptop and an iPhone or a smartphone, and we give her the VR headset, and we give her new accommodation, get her out of the slums with her family into a nice, safe precinct to live in. She will never ever betray us. She'll never ever leave us. she will be faithful to us for the rest of her life, because we're taking her out of an environment that's not nice. So we have a favour. We favour the children from the low-income suburbs, the low-income families, because we know that they are not going to give us a hard time. They are going to appreciate everything we do for them, and we are happy to look after them. So there you go. But all the other children are welcome too. But as I say, we favour the ones from the low-income areas. Now this here, as you see, the name of the video is Identifying Mankind's 4 Greatest Threats. Well, the first thing you've got to do is identify the threats, right? Then you've got to provide the best possible solutions. Now this is Martin Fridson. He's a lovely fellow, and he's very interested in what we're doing. Martin is the world #1 business guru. He is the chairman of Merrill Lynch. And Merrill Lynch, this is the banking and investment division of world's biggest bank, Bank of America. Right now, the thing about Merrill Lynch is they built Wall Street. They got taken over in 2008 by Bank of America, but they built Wall Street. And Wall Street is 1,000 times bigger than the Australian Stocks Exchange, and yet we got all the minerals over here. So Martin is very knowledgeable. He wrote the book How to Be a Billionaire, and if you have a look at that there is a summary on how to be a billionaire about his book. If you check that out, I had a bit of a cold. So if you check that out, you'll find out some of the best tips Martin will give you. And what he says, things like consolidating industries, right? How to consolidate an industry. Also he teaches things like how to position your company at the front end of the rising new global revolutions. How to solve people's problems. This is what he says. The 2 main things you need to do is to solve people's problems and improve their quality of life. If you can do those 2 things, you will become very, very successful in business. So when we're talking about business in the future, if there are these 4 greatest threats, and we can provide solutions to them, right, we must become very successful, right? And these are mankind's biggest threats in the next 12 months, 6 to 12 months. I'm going to show you what they are. And we're going to show you how to improve people's quality of life next year from all around the world with the sustainable villages and sustainable cities that Tali talked about in the introduction. Now, what are the 4 unsolvable threats to mankind? Number 4 is climate change. Climate change is not the greatest threat to mankind. You've been duped, right? Number 3 is the United Nations Agenda 21. That is really, really evil. And then your number 2 is the domino stock market crash, which is going to happen very soon, from November through to January. And then the number 1 greatest threat to humanity is mass population displacement. I preached this 30 years ago, and I was like a voice in the wilderness, and people said, "You are just loopy, man. That's never going to happen." And now we can see it all coming together. So climate change is not mankind's greatest threat. You have been duped, right? Mankind's greatest threat is right there. Mass population displacement. Right, now let's work backwards, starting from the least worst, which is climate change. So what's that about? Alright, they've wrecked the planet. The rich, the greedy, the oil companies, the coal companies, all the fossil fuels. This is what they're doing, wrecking our planet. When Hurricane Irma struck in 2017, there were actually 5 Category 5 hurricanes hit that coastline in the 35 days surrounding Hurricane Irma. But this is Houston. Right? Houston, the fourth biggest city in America, got hit with a storm surge. Look what it did. Went straight into the city, flooded that city. No one saw this, because they kept the focus on Irma so that people didn't see that America was getting hit by 5 Category 5 hurricanes at the same month. If they knew that, people would have pulled their wealth out of America and America would have been broke. So they kept the focus because it was so scary, Hurricane Irma. But here we go, this is climate change, folks. Desertification, extreme heat waves, hurricanes, fires. It's out of control. But it's not our greatest threat, folks. You have been duped. Now, the third to greatest threat, United Nations Agenda 21. This is like very, very evil. It's as evil as it can be because it's about, we got a vision to create a happy future for our children's children, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous. But this is the United Nations vision, is to depopulate humanity by 6 billion people. Folks, this is what it's about. Check it out online, YouTube, Rosa Kior, 20-minute video, Agenda 21 exposed. Check that out. She is so accurate in her facts. You can check all the other YouTube videos about Agenda 21. 197 evil nations signed the Agenda 21 Accord back in 1993 at the Earth Summit, right? And in that, the plan was that all 179 nations would work together to create a new world order. And a corporate-controlled, militarised one world government, and they do that through regionalisation with all these so-called sustainable development for the 21st century, where all you people who are idiots are getting them behind all the climate change stuff. You're reducing, you're doing your audits, reducing your greenhouse gas emissions, all these sort of things. You're doing a good job. That's excellent. Where's why you're doing that? 68, according to Colwatch, 68 of the United Nations, member nations, are constructing 1,600 new coal-fired power stations. How about that? 1,600, that's 45% of the greenhouse gas emissions is from coal-fired power stations. Professor Peter Newman is the #1 sustainability expert on the planet. He's helped me on 3 projects. He's a friend of mine. He told me 2 years ago, renewables is 50% cheaper than coal and can provide 100% electricity needs for any nation. And we don't need coal anymore. So why are 68 of the member nations of the United Nations constructing 1,600 new coal-fired power stations when renewables can provide what we need at 50% cheaper? Right, because when they build these coal-fired power stations at $2 billion to $4 billion a piece, all the money goes into the coal industry, which goes into the pockets of the rich. Meanwhile, they've got no money to help our homeless. They've got no money for our schools. They've got no money for our people who are impoverished. And this is how it works. So the evil United Nations are out to do this. Can you see that there? Corporate controlled, militarised, one world government is what they are developing through what they call regionalisation of all the sustainability, so-called sustainable development for the 21st century. All the climate activists are focused on climate change, and they're regionalising it to doing sustainability projects in towns, cities and schools, and coercing the children to learn about sustainability. So everyone focuses on sustainability, then they regionalise it, right? So the cities and the states and then the whole nation and the whole region, like the South Pacific, are into sustainability. And then they globalise it, so it becomes global, And every mug is involved in these climate change treaties, which is all about building up the one world government as the authority on human rights abuses, the authority on climate change issues, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, right, elevate all the experts. You know, they're going to save the planet, but in reality, how can you save the planet if you're building 1,600 new coal-fired power stations responsible for, how much? 45% greenhouse gas emissions, and they're building 1,600 new ones when 2 years ago, 50% cheaper. But no, they're still building it because they are accelerating climate change. They are not reducing it. Bottom line, why would you do that? They know it's 50% cheaper. But it's all about regionalisation to globalisation to developing this new corporate-controlled, militarised, one-world government, right? And I was served in the Royal New Zealand Air Force for 10 years. We used to wear those masks there for gas warfare. And when they introduced that they put us into a gas chamber with the mask on. They went to take the mask off, and our eyes stung, and someone walked out and they vomited and everything, because this real lethal gas warfare. So this is what you're going to see everywhere, these militarised units everywhere. And at the moment, thank goodness we've got Mr. Trump in power in the United States. A lot of people don't like him, but we're pleased that he's in power, because while he's in power, the Americans who control the government normally would have already instituted this militarised one world government, because they have around the world, folks, 800 US military bases ready to implement this militarised one world government. And that's why if Hillary Clinton had got into power, this would be in power probably right now, right? And we're the Americans going to take over all the countries, backed by all the United Nations, who are all part of this one world government, but it's corporate controlled. And you can see here, all those people lined up, they can shoot them if they want to. And this thing about military personnel, they got recruitment systems now where they hire the ones who have no compassion, so they don't have a problem shooting all the children and babies in a community of Indigenous peoples, because they're killers. That's why they are in the military. And how they aim to do it is controlling the food. Alright, so when everybody's in the food kitchens and there's no food because all their corporates have bought up have created these big farms, super farms, which buy up all the smaller farms, where the United Nations have put legislation through the governments, privatised all the water, doesn't belong to the people anymore, even the farmers. Water in their own dams belongs now to the state, then the state sold it, privatised, to the wealthy Americans who now own those water rights. There's the seed banks, there's the the chemtrails they use to destroy all the rural farming areas. There's so many things that they've been doing to destroy our food production, to control the food production, so that how do you control the world? You control the food. If you can control the food and people can't get a hold of it, and you own it and you control it, you got everybody, right? So they aim to control the global food supply. What they don't control, they'll destroy. Because you remember, their vision is to depopulate humanity, and they're using this, deliberately accelerating climate change, 1,600 new coal-fired power stations when we don't need them, is to accelerate climate change, folks. Let's get real. Climate change is the greatest weapon to use to destroy food production, because here in Australia, a friend of mine had a banana plantation up in the north of our state here. A cyclone came through, wiped out their plantation, flattened it. Took 3 years to grow it back. So when all the hurricanes increase in intensity and frequency, and they're coming through every fortnight to a month, and they're wiping out these plantations, how does mankind grow food when the plantations can't be regrown? And this is the weapon of mass destruction to destroy all our food production, whether it's extreme weather, heat waves to destroy our crops, or whether it's hurricanes that destroy all the beehives. No beehives, no pollination of the flowers for the fruits and everything else. And this is what they're doing. They're using and deliberately accelerating climate change. And on the other side, they're claiming that they are reducing greenhouse gas emissions. What a load of rubbish, right? So let's have a look here. This is number 2. Greatest threat, climate change, number 4. United Nations, Agenda 21, number 3. And the domino stock market crash is number 2. This is Harry Dent. He's the world number 1 stock market analyst. His dad was, I think it was Ronald Reagan. And his dad was the chief financial advisor and economist to Ronald Reagan, and therefore Harry was brought up around that knowledge base, and he learned all about economics and finance and all this sort of stuff from a very young age. He went to university, to Harvard University, and then he became an economist. But Harry was different. Harry studied recessions way back throughout human history, and he saw these patterns, and then he monitored the trends of the buying trends of the baby boomer generation, how that changed and drove a lot of the economy. Now, what he's saying now is the baby boomers are all now retiring and they're into all these cruise ships, which is big money. But Harry, what he does is he puts, I was at his seminar last year, 12 months ago, at his seminar, and he was talking about this domino stock market crash, which is about 3 weeks, right, November, 3 weeks away. It's in November, it's the 6th of October now. 3 weeks' time is November. So the crash is going to happen between November and January, end of January, going to February. So between the next 3 weeks to 3 months, boom, this domino stock market crash is going to hit. And Harry puts graphs over the top of graphs, like the buying trends of the baby boom generation and banking and all these sort of things, finance. And he, over through the graphs, he showed us how he can see where the financial bubble, where it's going to burst. And that's how he predicted every stock market crash in the last 30 years. Harry has predicted almost to the day, including the one in China and the one in Japan. And he's American. But this is how clever this guy is. And he's saying now that this one is the big one, right? He accurately predicted all the stock market crashes almost to the day. So this one he's saying is going to happen now in the next 3 weeks to 3 months is a domino crash. This is the big boy. Now, he says there'll be an 80% share market wipeout, because he can figure out how much is going to wipe off the share markets. He said 80%. Check this out. The 1929 stock market crash only had 30%. 30%? We're talking 80%. That's almost 3 times the devastation. Three times the devastation. Now that's pretty frightening, isn't it? So what Harry's saying, if you have $100 billion and you're a big corporate, the next day after the crash, it's going to be worth $20 billion. You just lost yourself $80 billion. So now, how do we recover from such a massive loss? Right? Well, what he's saying, as a result of it, the domino crash can take out a lot of the other companies, depending on the big companies, and you can have 2 out of 3 people will become unemployed all around the world. That's a bit of a worry. He also says that the oil price, and for those of you who know economists and whatnot, you know what that means. The United States dollar, $10 per barrel, if the value of oil today, which is over $50, drops to $10 a barrel, then no profits to be made. And in Iraq at the moment, a friend of mine builds the big refineries, and he says all the companies in there, they're only making $2 profit per barrel. $2 profit per barrel now, but when it drops down to $10 a barrel, how much is it going to make per profit? Now fracking, the break-even point is $52 a barrel. At $10 a barrel, they're out of business, right? And the thing about the petroleum industry, you know, you American journalists, I love them, they call the petroleum industry, they have a name for it, right? It's the doomsday market. And this is the reason. $3 trillion debt mountain. Have you no idea how much $3 trillion is? It's humongous. Now they already have this debt mountain. So what's going to happen when the oil price drops to $10 a barrel? And a friend of mine, Rob Patt, was the chief engineer on the Woodside platform. That rig 20 years ago was $1 million a day 20 years ago to run that rig. Right, it'd be a lot more today. So the oil that they're drilling for in Iraq is land-based. It's easy. It's been pushed out of the ground and it's on the land. It's not offshore with all the dangers. So they're going bankrupt. They've got no choice. And that's why all the petroleum companies have been seeking alternative revenue streams to eliminate their reliance on petroleum. So next year, when they're all bankrupt, what's going to happen is oil scarcity around the world, because they're all bankrupt, right? They're not supplying any fuel because they're bankrupt. So the oil scarcity is going to send your fuel price skyrocketing at the pumps. So if you're spending $40 a week today, you'll be looking at paying 5 to 10 times that amount this time next year, right? $40, $200 to $400 a year. You can look at that, and you can call me account on this, right? Because we had this problem in New Zealand when we were back in the 70s. You're going to end up with a global energy crisis. See, here in Australia, 48% of their energy across all the energy markets, you know, from coal, electricity production to transport and all that, 48% is dependent on oil. What happens when there's no oil to the Australian economy? Yeah, real problem. So there's going to also be a global electricity crisis where the coal mines, coal industry is going to go bankrupt. Also, a lot of the fossil fuel companies are going to go bankrupt. So how are you going to produce electricity from oil-fired power production, gas-fired power production, if they're all gone broke? Electricity crisis. And you can say, it doesn't affect me, but here's the question, will it affect you and your loved ones? That's interesting, isn't it? Well, here you go. Harry Dent said the house prices will plummet. And this, remember 12 months ago, Harry, I was at the seminar, and Harry said, no, your house prices here in Australia are going to plummet big time. If you've got an 80% share market wipeout, well, guess what's going to happen to your houses, right? And he said to all the rich people who were there with all the mansions around Perth, who's with the highest number of millionaires per head of population anywhere in the world, here in Perth, he said if you've got a mansion in one of the flashes or even a house, put lipstick on the pig and sell it. That's what he said. Get rid of it, because you're going to lose it, right? You're going to lose the value on your house. So, he said this stock market crash, there's no recovery. And, you know, from our perspective as sustainability experts, we know there's no recovery because 80% of the world's oil is now in Iraq. But if all the petroleum companies go bust, even the ones in Iraq, there's no recovery. You can't build economies without oil if it's fossil fuel and petroleum dependent or automobile dependent economy. You've got no show of rebuilding the economy. So you're in the car. 1929, 30% share market wipeout. This one, 3 weeks time to 3 months time, she's all over. It's an 80% share market wipeout. Almost 3 times more devastating. It's a domino crash. When the big fish crash, you know, like here, our mining companies crash, then all the small fish, all the smaller businesses dependent on the big businesses for supplying equipment for the mines, transportation, or, you know, mining equipment, trucks, all these sort of things, and also manpower. Where and how are you going to get paid if they've got no money? Because they're $100 billion business is suddenly worth 20 billion. They just lost 80 billion. How do they cover the cost? Well, that's interesting, isn't it? The small fish go down, 80% share market wipeout, 100 billion, losing 80%, you now got 20 billion, right? How do you recover from such a massive loss? Right? How are you going to do it? Yeah, a lot of trouble, isn't it? Well, this gives us grave concerns, right? Because all the small fish go too. And, you know, as it is, they don't get paid for 90 days anyway. They're never going to get paid when this happens. Now, the thing is, the resources, the whole economy's going to slow down. The resources going into China and India, that's not going to happen. No one's going to give you money. There's going to be a recession. Everything's going to slow down. So all the retail shops are going to slow down. The automobile industry, responsible for 30% of GDP, can slow right down. How are they going to manufacture vehicles if they can't get the iron, right? Or the steel and the aluminium, because all those mining companies gone bust. Yeah, interesting, isn't it? So there'll be a little exports coming out of China. Here's the cruncher, right? Apple stocks will crash. Here's a big hype about Apple being a $1 trillion company, or a load of rubbish. There's heaps of $1 trillion companies, and the oil companies, right? And the Rothschilds. Rothschilds worth 500 trillion, mate. So Apple's nothing compared to the Rothschilds and the Bank of International Settlements, or RIT Capital Investments. So Apple stocks, so-called first $1 trillion company, that's a load of rubbish. Apple stocks will crash. You know why? Because 90% of Apple products are made in China. Clowns. 90% are made in China. So China's got no iron ore coming in, it's got no coal coming in to run its blast furnaces to produce steel for the automobiles and for everything else that's got steel in it. Well, Apple ain't going to have any products, right? No products? What does that mean? It means no sales. It means no revenue. So what are all the investors in Apple, and you're investors in Apple, you're watching this, you need to get out now and sell up. Because that $1 trillion company's going bust, and as I say, no products, no sales, no revenue. What sort of a clown would invest in a company that makes no revenue? They're going to go bust, because they were fools to put all their eggs into one basket. Right, now we'll talk a bit more about the stock market crash, because there's grave concerns. The global recession, the slowdown all around the world, reduced sales and your retail outfits, or right across the board, it's going to slow right down, reducing the revenue. The corporation that you were working for now has got reduced revenue, it's got reduced money to pay you. So what they got to do? Reduce your production output straight away, don't they? What's the point of manufacturing lots and lots of products when no one's got any money to buy it? Slows right down. So you got to cut the costs, cut production, cut the overheads, automate, bring in your robotics, get rid of the staff, and AI gives even a bit of even more. So it puts more and more people out of work. The companies have no choice but to downsize, right? And as Harry Dent says, 2 out of 3 employed people worldwide will become unemployed. Don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure that out, right? Based on the information I just gave you, and based on past recessions, which is what you can check up yourself. Now, I'm not here to preach to you. I'm here to ask you questions, critical questions, so that you can go away and do your own research. Don't believe me. You can believe Harry Dent. Check out his videos. If you subscribe to our website, we'll give you all the links to the people you need to talk to, because you can get really, really misled looking into all these different industries. You want to talk to the industry leaders. If you want to know about the stock markets, it's Harry Dent you need to talk to. Forget about the rest. right? Because what happened last year, and we got it from Warren Buffett's good friend, said, oh, Warren's telling us all to sell up because the bubble was about to burst. And see, it didn't happen. So what happened is all these people around the world who also got to learn that Warren said it's going to burst, it didn't happen. Now, the corporates I talk to, they say, it's a load of rubbish, man. It's not going to burst. You know, these doomsday people say it's going to burst and it hasn't happened. But what they don't know is that last November when I saw Harry Dent, Harry said, no, it's rubbish. You know, Warren Buffett got it wrong. It's next year, around November, between November and January. And according to feng shui experts, that's apparently something big's going to happen in that time period. Anyway, won't get in that. So I'm here to ask you critical questions so that you can work it out yourself. Go and do the research yourself. Then you got peace of mind that you know that these 4 great threats to humanity are going to happen. And I've got to give you more information so that you can know what to do. You must first see the problems in more detail before you can work out the solutions and then how to capitalise on it. So here's the question. 2 out of 3 become unemployed. Are you confident that when the company you work for downsizes, uses automation, uses robotics and uses AI, will they still need you? When there's less production, will they still need you? If not, then Harry Dent must be correct, right? He must be correct. 2 out of 3 people employed all around the world will be unemployed. You need to consider that. Here's the big question. If you are unemployed and you and your wife or your husband have got a mortgage, but you're unemployed, how are you going to pay your mortgage? Have you thought about that? Will the bank foreclose on you? They certainly will, because they're all part of the Agenda 21. That's part of the game. Well, the objective is to make humanity, put humanity really in dire straits so they can take control to bring about law and order and their one world government. So the banks are definitely going to foreclose on you and take your home and kick you right out, along with your children, because they're heartless and they really don't care. So the bottom line is you lose and you become homeless. Hard questions, aren't they? But rough, aren't I? But you know, I can put it in your face so you come to terms with it and you wake up. Are you renting? Okay, if you are renting, that's an issue too. How will you pay your rent if you become unemployed and you have no savings? How are you going to do that? Right? No savings, run out of money, no job. Well, the landlord, he's got no choice but to evict you because he's got to still keep paying his mortgage, the idiot. You lose if you're renting. You become homeless. So, how many people will become homeless in the wealthy high-end nations? Right, this is America, New Zealand, Australia, Sweden, you know, the UK, all the high-end nations, Japan. How many will become homeless in these high-end nations? Well, it's about 40% across the high-end nations that have mortgages that are stupid enough to get a mortgage. And then you got 25% renting. Right, so how many people will become homeless in the developing nations? Right, so forget about the high-end nations. I'm now talking about the developing nations. And who are they? India, Africa, Indonesia, Philippines, South America. Well, they don't have a 40% of their population with mortgages or, you know, with the dwellings, 40% with mortgages. No, they've got high poverty rates. So they're lucky. They're not going to be hit as hard. They're not going to have as many homeless because a lot of them are already homeless, so it's not going to upset them. But in the higher end nations, are going to be very, very upset. They're going to have riots, right? And less mortgages, less chaos. Maybe a little bit further on this. So in 2015, 2016, according to the Wikipedia stats for Australia, there were 9 million dwellings in Australia. Here are the type of dwellings. So we had 30% of the dwellings of the 9 million were freehold, paid off. 4% were state housing. 25% were renting. And 40%, check that figure out, 40% of all those 9 million dwellings have mortgages on, currency slaves. So looking at the total, 30% of 9 million is 3 million freehold, so they don't have to worry about it, right? If they don't pay anything, they don't end up out on the street, homeless. And neither are the ones in the state housing, because most of the ones in the state housing, they're on pensions, old age pensions, disabilities, unemployment, whatever. So they've got an income coming in, they're not unemployed, and the state housing is cheap enough for them to afford. Right? Only just. And for the ones renting, in Australia here, out of the 9 million, 2,250,000 are renting. Have they got enough savings? And how long will the savings last? Because this is a very extended crash and Great Depression coming our way. So 40% is 3,600,000 Australians have a mortgage, and most of them have a family. So when here it says 2 out of 3 are going to become unemployed, well, let's have a look at these figures. For the freehold there, right, so that is 66% of all those who had the dwellings. 2 out of 3 become unemployed. So that doesn't apply to those who have freehold housing. It doesn't apply to those in a state house. But it does apply to those who are renting. So 2 out of 3, right, become unemployed. It's 148,500 become unemployed. And 2,376,000 with mortgages. That is a lot of families, isn't it, to become destitute with no income, now no home, because they can't pay the mortgage. Now, according to the stats, 2.6 occupants per dwelling are going to become homeless, because that's what they've worked it out. Out of those statistics here, there's 2.6 people per dwelling. So that doesn't affect those with the freehold. It also doesn't affect those with state housing. But it does affect those who are renting. Right? So times 2.6 is now we're looking at 384,800 people are going to become homeless because they are renting and they're going to have no savings to pay the rent. $384,000. Are you one of those? Are you renting? Have you got enough savings to last the next 12 months, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? See, we've got to get real, folks. We can't live in an airy-fairy world thinking everything's going to be right, because it's not. This is the real world. But this is the one we're concerned about, the 40% mortgage. 3,600,000, 2 out of 3 unemployed, that comes to 2,376,000, times 2.6% is 6,117,600 are going to become homeless. Homeless folks. Look at those figures. This is what we call, remember we said number one threat is mass population displacement. This is going to be what we call internal displacement across Australia, as all these 6.5 million homeless people displace across the nation out into the rural areas in search for food and survival. Alright? So 2 out of 3 unemployed, 25% renting equals 384,800 homeless, 40% mortgage, 6,117,600 homeless, 6 million. So by June 2020, in the financial year, you're going to be looking at 6,562,000 or 6.5 million people homeless in Australia. These are the facts. Where will they live? How will they survive? If you are one of them with a mortgage or renting, how will you survive? I talked to a friend of mine the other day, 2 days ago, and he said, yeah, we just bought a house, mate. We got convinced to stop renting and get a mortgage. I said, bro, you should you having no, I told him these facts. He went, oh no, just got a mortgage, man. Yeah, not only you got the mortgage, if you can't guarantee that you've got an employment this time next year, you're going to lose that mortgage. You'll lose your home. The bank's going to take your car too. They're going to take everything you own, bro, to pay off that mortgage. He should have spoken to me before he made the decision. So, mass population displacement. What's that got to do with 6.5 million people being homeless in Australia? So, these are what we call stock market refugees. The Australian population, 24.6 million Australians. You divide that by 6.5 million homeless, what do you get? 1 in every 4 Australians will be homeless this time next year. And that's only the number 2 stock market crash, greatest of the 4 threats. So here's some more critical questions for you. June 2020, 6.5 million homeless people in Australia, that's 1 in every 4. And as I said, those stats, 24.6 million Australians in 2016, ABS statistics. You divide that by 6.5 million homeless people, you have 1 in every 4 Australians will be homeless. So when you walk down the street, you see 100 Australians, 25 of them will be homeless, living on the street, sleeping rough. You know, I know they're going to be living in schools or, you know, public buildings. They'll be sleeping in the streets. It's going to be catastrophic. So, have you ever been a war refugee? They know what's coming. If you've been a war refugee, because you lost everything. You had to flee for your life or die. You walked with nothing. Here's the other question. In the high-end nations, have you ever been homeless? Have you ever experienced sleeping rough? Here in Perth, we've done videos. In Perth, you'll notice during the day in the shopping central business district, people sleeping in the doorways of shops that are not open. And we've got a lot of shops which are actually vacant, so they sleep in the doorways during the day. And it doesn't look a cool scene for a wealthy city with homeless people sleeping in the doorways during the day. The reason that they're doing that is they sleep in the street at night, they get their heads kicked in by the meth addicts. And so they become unconscious, then they get robbed of everything. Everything they own, including their footwear, gets robbed because the meth addicts rob them. It's a real dangerous place at night, Perth. Very, very dangerous place. That's why they sleep in the daytime, because they know that meth addicts are not going to rob them during the daytime, so they can actually sleep. They stay awake at night. So if you haven't experienced sleeping rough, if there's 6.5 million people homeless, are you going to be sleeping rough? And one of our young Indigenous boys 5 weeks ago died, froze to death out front of the Armidale Library. Cause of death? He froze to death. So do you know the dangers of sleeping rough? Are you prepared for this? Right? Where will these people live? 6.5 million people. Where will they live? How will they survive? Where will they get food? How can we afford food? In Yemen, 18 million people are dying right now because that evil Saudi Arabia have got a blockade on Yemen so they can't get the food through. So for 12 months people have been dying of starvation. And you see the United Nations, big heroes, sent in $1 billion worth of food. Didn't last long. So that's 18 million, but we've got 6.5 million here. How much is that going to cost this government to feed them? Really? They're not going to be able to do it. The questions you ask when you're homeless, because I was homeless once for 4 months, where can we wash ourselves? Where do we sleep? In cars? In my friend's garage? Under a tree? Right? How can I feed my children? How can I change the nappies on my puppies? What about healthcare? What about my teeth if I've got a toothache? What if I've got a kidney problem? Government ain't going to afford it, are they? No. Stock market crash. The date, Sunday the 6th of October 2019, when I developed this PowerPoint presentation. Homeless people in Australia, as we said. In 2016, there was 116,000 homeless, according to the Australian Bureau of Statistics. 116? Now this crash in 3 weeks to 3 months, right? 21 days to 120 days away. 30th June next year, it's going to be 6.5 million homeless. 25% of Australia's population, 1 in 4 people homeless. Now, as I say, where will they live? How will they survive? Well, that's interesting, isn't it? These are what we call the stock market refugees. Right? They're the victims of the stock market crash. 6.5 million here in Australia. If in the high-end nations it works out to 1 in 4 people in the high-end nations, you can figure that out for yourself if you live in a high-end nation, because you're going to hit really hard. And you are not going to like being homeless when you're used to luxury. When you're homeless, you've got no air conditioner, you've got no internet to watch, you've got no bar with fridge with all the top shelf and the wine and everything. You've got nothing when you're on the streets. You can't even have a darn shower. Where's your clothes? You know? It's hard on the streets. So you see, when they say climate change is mankind's greatest threat, that's a load of rubbish. It's all a part of Agenda 21, the so-called sustainable development for the 21st century, which really, with all those treaties about climate treaties, a load of rubbish. It's all about regionalisation, going to globalisation, to a militarised New World Order, one world government. And thank goodness Mr. Trump's in power, because he's not doing the dirty like that rotten bag Hillary Clinton would have done. She'd have already mobilised those 800 bases to take over. Right? Because that's what she is, control freak. Mr. Trump, he hasn't done that yet. So you might think he's a right and blighter, but at least he's not initiating this one world government. At least not yet. So, mankind's greatest threat? Mass population displacement as a result of so many homeless people, whether refugees from climate or whatever. They can be displacing in search of better places to live, better cities, better towns, moving out to the rural areas, which is what's happening in India. And you'll notice that you do a search on Google, you won't find much about mass population displacement, because those who know it, like I know it, and like many politicians know it, don't promote it, because there's no solutions. They've got no solutions. And what's happening in India is the mass population displacement. Large numbers of floating population are moving into the forests, and all the tigers and the animals are moving out because they're invaded. And the thing about floating populations, they eat everything in sight. All right? Eat everything in sight. And it's a problem. So here we have a problem. Mankind's greatest threat. Climate change is not our greatest threat, it's mass population displacement. And with so many homeless, this is what they're going to have to do, like they did in New Orleans with Hurricane Katrina. Homeless people everywhere. They're going to have to put them into public facilities like halls and schools and mass homeless shelters. And can the government provide housing? No way they can. We're going to have 119,000 people already homeless today they can provide housing for. The waiting list is 9 years here in Australia. The government can't provide housing. What are they going to do with 116,000 homeless they couldn't provide for? No way they are going to provide for 6 million, 6.5 million. So what's going to happen? Here you go. You're going to have the tent cities pop up everywhere, caravans, tents. They're going to survive. You've got no home to live in, right? And there's going to be major civil unrest when this happens, right? Particularly in the high-end nations, they're not going to take it. They're going to march on their parliaments. They're going to demand results. And this is mass population displacement. Mankind's greatest threat, folks. And, you know, take a look here. There's different types of mass population displacement. This one here, right, what's that one from? That's war refugees. War refugees. Thanks to the Americans and the 7 nations they were attacked, there are today 65 million war refugees. Today. Now, also, we have the Civil War refugees, right? Around the world where the civil wars are happening, there's the refugees. So that's an unknown amount. That's going to happen this time next year, but I can guarantee you there are going to be civil wars as a result of so many homeless people. If 1 in 4 people within the high-end nations suddenly become homeless, they're going to riot, man. They are not going to accept it. They are not going to accept a reduced quality of life, quality of living. Whereas in the developing nations, where there's a lot of poverty, it doesn't make any difference to them. So they're not going to riot because they can handle it. Right, so then we have also the climate change refugees. They're having to move because of the rising seawater levels. They're having to move because there's no water. So climate refugees, and we don't know how many of them are going to be, whether it's from hurricane devastation like this, flooding, they're being displaced, moving populations, floating populations. It's a concern, folks. Now, we sound like doomsday sayers, right? But look, we're just sharing with you the information. We're asking you critical questions to get you to do your research, to make up your minds. What am I going to do? You need to prepare a critical survival plan, and if you're smart, a wealth creation plan, because you can actually capitalise on it. So the climate change refugees, we don't know how many are going to be climate change refugees this time next year. All right, that's number 3. And as we say, history tells the future. What's happened in Hurricane Katrina can happen again. What's happened in all the wars and things, you know, with these tent cities popping up everywhere with the riots. And how can 6.5 million Aussies buy food? And not going to happen. They'll be eating in soup kitchens, if they're lucky. Actually, there was a Bible prophecy in Luke where Jesus said about global food shortages in our time period called the last days. And we can see this happening, right? Clear as day. So, you know, we remain religious and politically neutral. We don't get into it. But we do have studied these Bible prophecies, and we can see them actually coming to fruition. And it lines up with all the feng shui and all the other things that are happening, and what Harry Dent's saying, and Martin Fritz and all these. And we can see them coming together. So history tells the future. Food queues back in the 1920s, food queues later on in the century in different nations, and then the upmarket food vans we have here in Perth at night for the homeless people. So stock market refugees, 25% of the Australian population. That is very, very scary. If you're looking at around the world, will it reach a quarter of the population of humanity due to the stock market crash? That would be a possible 2 billion people, homeless, floating populations, mass population displacement. Climate change is not mankind's greatest threat. That is a load of rubbish. That is part of Agenda 21. Regionalisation to globalisation to the one world government. Corporate controlled, militarised one world government, controlled by the same perpetrators of the 9/11 attack, which were politicians and the rich that financed all those wars. We'll cover that another time. Mass population displacement. Mankind's greatest threat. Are you prepared for it? Stock market refugees. Right. We are very, very concerned for our Australian brothers and sisters. Now, what's going to happen when there's so many homeless people? They got to survive, right? And what's happening today with the homeless people? They're robbing all the shops to survive, particularly the Kiwis. They're not entitled to any healthcare or any social security benefits if they've been here less than 10 years. So they're robbing everybody. And it's costing the Australian government even more for the crimes that they're doing. So the crime rate's going to escalate 100-fold. As a result, people got to survive, and they'll turn to crime like they did at Hurricane Katrina. Ordinary people, law-abiding citizens, robbed all the shops in broad daylight. So if no one's got any money, here's a question: will drug addiction increase? That's a good question, isn't it? Well, what's going to happen is there's going to be an increase in petrol theft. Reason for that? Well, good reason for that. See, because petrol is going to be 5 to 10 times more expensive. And we're saying there's going to be an increase in crime, right, around the world. And it's going to be a very dangerous world to live in because of all these meth addicts. And many people are going to displace into the rural and remote areas and search for food and shelter and security. In some cases, water. So these floating populations are like locusts. They'll eat everything. Right? They'll eat everything. They won't just eat the kangaroos, the big ones, they'll eat the small ones too. So they can't multiply. They eat everything. Or the shellfish, they're going to take all the small shellfish too, so it can't multiply. And those are your problems. So when you have a look at mass population displacement, 65 million war refugees right now are floating populations. Then you're going to have the Civil War refugees. Now, Harry Dent claims that America is going to have a civil war next year. And we can see that coming because Americans aren't going to tolerate being homeless. And they got guns, man, they're crazy ass. They're just shooting each other. Instead of them shooting every other race on the planet with their wars, they'll be shooting each other. Civil War refugees. We don't know how many are going to flee from the United States, but we know that the big corporations are moving out because they know this is going to happen. Because they follow Harry Dent and all these very, very clever business people who can see these trends happening and have forecasted. Watch out. Then you got all your climate change refugees. We don't know how many years it's going to be, right? So it's unknown. The 2 out of 3 unemployed, 40% mortgages, 25% renting. So the fourth one we've got there is the stock market refugees. So you can see the four, lots of refugees, war refugees, civil war refugees, climate change refugees, and stock market refugees, 25%, possible 2 billion. So, mankind's greatest threat, what hope is there for our children? Remember what our vision is? Our vision is to create a happy future for our children's children, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous. How on earth do we do this if our children are in those families, those 6.5 million families, going to be homeless, and among them, not 6.5 million families, but 6.5 million homeless. There are going to be a lot of our children and little puppies. They're going to be hungry. They're not going to have any nappies, right? They're living on the streets, sleeping rough. And that's what's going to happen to our children. So how do we bring our vision to fruition if this is what the future holds? Quick review. 4 unsolvable threats. Let's get real. Climate change, Agenda 21, the New World Order, corporate control, militarised one world government, that's as evil as can be. Remember what their vision is. Remember what our vision is for the children, to create a happy future for our children and for our children's children, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous. But what is their vision for the United Nations? There it is, right there. Depopulate humanity by 6 billion. That is their vision. And to control humanity with all this military personnel, with the 800 military bases already around the world that the Americans have got all around the world. And fortunately, Mr. Trump is in control. And we're lucky he's in control, because that Hillary Clinton would have enforced this already. And then we got there again, remember? These poor unfortunate 65 million refugees. Civil War refugees. There's going to be a lot in America. They're fleeing America, and all the big corporations are fleeing America now. They already know. Rothschilds have moved their 500 trillion out of Wall Street that's now in East Asia. So the big corporations are trying to move it to New Zealand, but the New Zealand government won't let them in. But the Australian government is. So they're getting out of America because they know this is what's going to happen. So, you know, folks, we've got some dreadful times coming ahead of us. How are you going to survive? Are you going to be in the soup kitchens? Right, there you go. Mass population displacement. I rest my case. So, what did that say? Let me take it back. We don't want to listen to doom and gloom. That's what people say. This is what people have been saying for the last 30 years to me as I've been talking about mass population displacement. They said, you're a clown. It's climate change. No, it's mass population displacement. I know it's coming. Because I knew back then the Bible prophecies, and I've been monitoring them and seen them all come to fruition. There's 8 have come to fruition, another 8 are going to come to fruition. And we can see them coming to fruition. So, when you know those, then you can work out what Harry Dent's saying. Does it coincide with what those Bible prophecies are saying? And you see, people don't like talking about the Bible. Yeah, it is cool, sweet. But we're not into all the religions because we don't like arguments. But what we do like is these prophecies, because it gives us a clear pathway. We can see these prophecies coming to fruition. When you can see them coming to fruition, you can prepare contingency plans, how to both survive and also how to capitalise on the crises by providing solutions to the problems and improving their quality of life. It's not hard to improve someone's quality of life if they're homeless, to get them off the street, to get them into a sustainable village or a sustainable city in paradise where everything's free, is it? So what do we need to do? Well, we don't need the doom and gloom, do we? No, we need hope. And that's what we're here for, to give you hope, and for all our wonderful children coming to our Indigenous Peoples Learning Network website We will give you hope because the politicians can't. And what are the best possible solutions? Here it is, engineered transmigration. And how does that work? That's me. Well, first of all, you identify what all the problems are. Once you can see the problems, then you can provide the solutions, right? That was a mistake, don't worry about that. Engineered transmigration. How it works is that we rapidly mass produce the sustainable villages for our Indigenous peoples for what we call Indigenous repatriation. So a lot of the Indigenous peoples, like for Philippines, are here in Australia working for pittance and sending their money back to their Indigenous communities. So what we'll do is we'll just build our sustainable villages very, very quick for them, and then they can repatriate their people back into their beautiful, pristine wilderness areas where they haven't got any food. So we teach them permaculture principles, organic gardening, aquaculture, animal husbandry, so they've got sustainable food production. And we build the infrastructure for them. And it's the simultaneous rapid mass production of thousands of sustainable villages in paradise simultaneously, all at the same time, because we're able to do that. And it's going to be rolled out next year. The Sustainable Villages is a PowerPoint presentation. You can have a look at it, how we build them. Very quick. In 28 days, we can build a whole village with 40 odd homes, plus the community dining centre, which also has an indoor, it transforms also into an indoor entertainment centre with the stage. It's got a creche in there, it's got a high-tech commercial kitchen, run all off renewables with all the best cooking facilities and everything else, and the hangi outside if they use hangi or whatever. So, and it's got all the plants and beautiful tables and furniture and on the wall art, off the wall art, carvings, statues, you know, sculptures around inside there with all the beautiful plants and water features and stuff inside the community centre for dining. Then we all have all the homes that we build very quick in 28 days. With a solar passive design. Location for these sustainable villages in the beautiful, remote, pristine wilderness environments on the lands of the Indigenous peoples. Hence the reason we have the Indigenous Peoples Learning Network to get through to our Indigenous brothers and sisters all around the world to provide them our education in their language through our virtual reality headsets, the virtual reality augmented reality with the computer inside the headset. We talk in English, their translators transfer it into their Indigenous language, what they want to teach their children. So these precincts are only for decent, good-hearted people. If you're a rotten scumbag, you're violent, you're nasty, you're cruel, mean, you ain't getting in these communities because we have screening processes to keep you right out. Now, if you do get through all the training programs, we have a lifetime cradle to grave employment and habitation contract, and it is exactly what that says. Right, please explain. Right, lifetime means you're employed for life. We don't give you a gold watch at 65 and say, see you later, you have no use. No, you can retire and live in our communities to the day you die, and our corporations will pay for your funeral and will fly your relatives in for the funeral, cover all costs. Right, lifetime. From cradle, when our young people grow up, they get married, they have children, where our corporation will pay everything maternity, nappies, bassinet, the milk, anything. Our corporation will pay for everything. You don't have to pay for nothing. Right? And we'll be making, for each of our music concerts and virtual reality, we'll be pulling $3 billion per concert. 6 concerts a weekend, 18 billion per weekend, 740 billion a year to finance all these projects debt-free. Zero emission, green infrastructure. That's what we're building. So you can be with us forever, living in our beautiful, pristine wilderness environments. So that's for our Indigenous people. So we build a village in, say, on one of the islands, beautiful islands, Paradise Islands, the Philippines. They can bring all their Indigenous rallies who are in Australia back to the Philippines to live in their beautiful, pristine wilderness where they just put a seed in the ground and it grows. They don't need permaculture over there. It's a beautiful thing about the Philippines, and that's the pearl of the Orient. We can build these precincts very cheaply, very fast, and we train their people, 16-year-old youths, to build the buildings. So that's all covered in the Sustainable Villages PowerPoint presentation. So here's an example of the lifetime cradle to grave employment and habitation contract. We put a little 6-year-old through our happy training curriculum, where she has to do a 21-day goal setting exercise, find out what her major goal in life is. And after 21 days, she says, I am going to be a surgeon. Sweet. All right, now that you know what it is you're going to be, we want you to do a 10-point plan. She does a 10-point plan. In the 10-point plan, she writes it down. And then she also puts down, does she believe it? Hey, 6-year-old, you got to say, yeah, I do believe it. I'm going to be a surgeon one day. So, right, you believe it, that's good. What are the benefits? So she puts down, oh, it's exciting, it's going to heal people. The more benefits, the more the motivation. Right, then so I say, well, what's your starting point? I'm only 6. That's all right. At least we know. Put your starting point down. She puts the starting point down. I say, all right, what sort of obstacles are you going to run in? Well, I live in a slum. That's a bit of an obstacle. Oh, that's all right. We'll solve that problem. We'll bring in some sponsors to get you the heck out of there, right? Into a nice place, which is safe. Well, I haven't got a laptop or anything. That's all right. We'll bring in some sponsors to give you a laptop. In fact, we'll bring in the hospital that's going to want you to come work for them as a surgeon. And they'll sponsor you because you're going to be very valuable to them in the future. So there you go. Don't worry about that one. All right, so what education do you need? Oh, well, I need biology, science, maths. All right, cool. So that's better than going and doing trade joining or something stupid. Got nothing to do with your major goal, has it? So she said we get the child right on track to what her goal in life is, even from age 6. So, all right, the people organisations you need, well, I need my school, primary school, I need my secondary school, I need the university, and then I need that hospital over there, they're going to employ me. Sweet. So, you know the organisations you need to be involved with. Also, you need our sponsors to sponsor all your education and everything else. Then you need to know, you've got your education and everything else, then you need to collect some visuals and put them up on your wall, your bedroom, or on the fridge, what it's going to look like to be a surgeon. And what the hospital will do will bring you to a theatre and you can watch some surgery. And you can start learning right now, and we will supply you virtual reality content where you can go into the body and go all around the body and learn all the different parts of the body through the circulation system in virtual reality. So you see, we've got a little child right on track to her goal in life. And then we also say, okay, so what's the target date for you to reach this goal? And she says, oh, I don't know. Well, you're only 6. So how many more years of education and then uni and then the hospital? So by the time you've done all that, you're going to be about 26 years of age, right, before you're a surgeon. But you're only 6, so you only get 20 years away. That's your target date, put it down. Now she's got a target date, she's going to work to it. That's what we do with the child, and we will guarantee her employment when she turns 16 to come and live in our community, and even before that we can take her into our community. And you see, for the Indigenous peoples, we can build the precinct for them, the sustainable village. When you have a look at how we do it, it's really, really fast. Well, and sustainability is 4 factors of sustainability: social, cultural, ecological and economic. We'll teach them social, how to create social harmony, link break technology, how to communicate, all these sort of things. But they've got culture, so we don't need to teach them nothing about culture because they already know it. They got their music, they got their dance. Then we teach them the ecology on permaculture, organic gardening, aquaculture, animal husbandry, right? So they've got food supply, sustainable food supply. But they've got their culture, that's very important. So they're in South Africa. So they're happy. Build the village for them. They can live their culture. Isn't she lovely? Look. So throughout Africa. Beautiful culture. The Indigenous peoples' culture. Check this one out. China. They're lovely outfits. We can build in China. We can build them villages for the Chinese people to live in and deliver them in shipping containers. Over here, Tahiti, aren't they lovely? And you do the hula. Hey, look at these guys. See, this one here, go back that one. We do that with our boys, Marys. And humans, we love flame and we love water. It's good to do a dance like this, traditional dance by the water. Right, these guys too. Check these ones out, Fijian brothers. But now look, more Fijian. Look at their outfits, aren't they beautiful? Now when we say indigenous, we don't mean brown skinned or black. These are our white indigenous brothers from Russia. Look at their beautiful outfits. Look at how they dance in synchro. Humans love to dance and we love music. And they're white brothers. Indigenous means you're the indigenous peoples of the lands. Up in their lands they just have pure white skin. India, indigenous. Right? Scotland, they're indigenous. Finland, they're indigenous. They're our white brothers and sisters. We have no prejudice. This is my favourite. Japanese. I just love to see Japanese people, particularly in the kimonos. And I love the way they bow to me and how they treat one another. They bow to one another when they greet. That is a beautiful gesture for one human being to bow to another in that lovely way. The lovely way they cook the food with love. The lovely way they live. The Japanese are wonderful people, and they got bombed by those horrible Americans with atomic bombs. Check out these, Brazil, isn't that fabulous? So, cultural sustainability. They just need infrastructure, sustainable villages. You watch it in our videos, how we build, very quick. Right, Japan again. So, you know, isn't it lovely? The amount of work they go to for their costumes. Here we go, Philippines. They're marvellous, eh? Philippines. Right, so Hawaii. We can look after our indigenous brothers and sisters. Check those outfits, aren't they magnificent? The amount of work, the pride that they put into those outfits so they can perform to their fellow brothers and sisters and communities. Marvellous. Look at those beautiful outfits there. Aren't they wonderful in Indonesia? So we can build for them. Look at that choreography there in Indonesia. Isn't that magnificent? The amount of practice, the amount of work. Check these ones out. Maori hip hop. And we specialise in the clean, happy hip hop music and dance civilization that we're integrating into the sustainable cities in paradise. Here we go. Check these ones out. This is my people, our Maori people. Look at those beautiful clothing that they're wearing. You see there the dresses the women are wearing, they're called pew-pews. My mum used to make us scrape the flax, and then she'd soak the flax into the mud, and then it'll curl up in the sun and then like the straws. So you can see the one on the left there. A lot of work involved in making those. So the indigenous peoples, our outfits that we wear, and our connection to nature and to water and to fire. It's beautiful. So you ask the question, what are we creating? We're creating the indigenous peoples revolution through the engineered transmigration, also of non-indigenous peoples, through the simultaneous rapid mass production of sustainable cities in paradise. This is my project I worked on all my life since the age of 5. Location, again, in the beautiful, remote, pristine wilderness environments on the lands of the indigenous peoples. Right, and these are different. And they're only for, again, for decent, good-hearted people. We don't let in people who are evil, mean, nasty, cruel, and using drugs or smoking. We don't let them in. You don't want them in your communities. So, again, a lifetime created a grave employment and habitation contract. Now, These will be the ultimate safe lifestyle destinations because they're in the remote wilderness areas, right away from all the violent towns and cities. People can't get into them because they'll be protected by our own security companies, which are former SAS, former Special Forces personnel using satellite technologies to monitor the movement of anybody coming into the areas and intercept. So the sustainable cities are very different from the cities that you live in, that you know about. We start by finding an island and we use what we call nuclear photography coming out of satellites. And the nuclear photography feeds back to us in what we call 3D. And the 3D shows us how much water is under the ground, all the different minerals and everything. So we find an island, it's got water underneath. So the next thing we do is we put a jetty in. You see the jetty there. We dig out the sides of it so that our high-speed ships can come in through the shallow waters of the lagoons, and what we call transport-orientated development. So these high-speed ships are big, they're fast, they skim through the top through the lagoons, fairly shallow, and then drop down to deep water beside the jetty, and then lift out and take off. That means we don't need deep water ports. Also using flying aircraft, flying boats to land on the lagoons, to land on the estuaries, rivers and the lakes. So that eliminates the need for these high polluting international airports. All right. And then we also use the figure eight formation here. You can see it's a monorail system running away from the coastline or away from the river, figure eight formation, and then we have all the compact communities on the monorail system. And you drop the monorail system into the bush using heavy lift helicopters. All right. So, as I say, lifetime, cradle to grave, ultimate safe lifestyle destinations. As I say, they're transport orientated and high-speed shipping. We do environmental impact studies before we clear, fell anything. And this is a community here with on the top there is closest to the coast, lower ground buildings, and the higher 5-10 story high buildings behind that, getting the views of the ocean and everything else, aquaculture ponds and things. And then we put in all the sustainable agriculture into the bush, into the native bush, by relocating the wildlife. And you remember all of your fruits and things actually came from out of the tropical forest, so it's easy to grow permaculture. And you put in the monorail system, train station, drop the monorail in with the heavy lift helicopters, means you don't have to cut any roads, right? So you run the monorail system 2 loops away from the river, then adjacent to the river or adjacent to the coastline, and then you put the compact communities the size of a footy oval, 5-10 story high buildings, right? And they're walkable communities, no automobiles anywhere, you notice that? And everything runs off renewables, including the monorail system, which is automated. So you put in the helipad for emergency and for tourism purposes, stations, and then the as I say, the transit loops there, 2 away from the coastline and then adjacent to the coastline. So 100% renewables. So we have all fine apartments, upmarket buildings, beautiful furniture and fittings, all complimentary of the corporation. When you come into these precincts, you will have to not need to bring anything. Everything will be supplied. There'll be abundant water, food, grown locally, and everyone will have enjoyable work. No one will be doing things they don't like to do. And the beautiful thing here, if you notice, this is one of the most important pictures, is this one here. 80% of our inhabitants will be aged 6 to 16. So we've got to teach them to find the right marriage mate that has the same age goal as them, that they've got a nice attraction, they can have a nice, loving, loyal, faithful marriage, and then they can have children and they never break up, right? And they can continue with their romance, and we'll support all that with our dining facilities and everything else, send more holidays, and they can rotate around our network of cities and villages. So lovely people from all walks of life living in true peace and harmony, because we've kept the indecent people out and they're living in paradise. So also, notice I've left some of them out. We're up to number 11, we skipped from 6. So the corporation will also supply all these boats here, jet skis and that boat there with that's a parachute on the back, and you hoist up from off the platform on the back of the boat. So you can go up in there parachuting. I took my 3-year-old daughter on it. It was awesome. High-speed boats for entertainment, canoes, all in the corporation, the helicopters and the helipads in each of our sustainable cities. For tourism, so if your friends come, we just take a helicopter, go out and look at the wilderness, up the rivers, and do a bit of fishing, have a picnic, and then jump in the helicopter, fly back. And it'll be our local young people will be flying these helicopters. So there'll be all bushwalks and enjoy the beautiful, pristine wilderness, and name the games, have fun, entertainment. So also in all the precincts we'll have the health centre, spa rejuvenation health centre, with all the the second one there from the top there is an aroma steam rehydration unit, absolutely fabulous, with all the aroma and steam, and you rehydrate the body. There's the massages, that's Honda massage that bloke's doing. That machine down the bottom is a Vibrasawn. It's a bed that vibrates on the inside. You shut the capsule and then you can control it, and you have cold air blowing on your face, and it's wonderful. There will also be flotation pods, flotation tanks. Also Vibrasawn technology there. You see how it opens and then you can close it down, but the bed vibrates, and that has a sauna inside there, but your head's out getting ionised air blown onto it. And it's a really, really wonderful. It's got different vibrations. So also the massage, body therapy, different types from shiatsu to Honda massage to Bowen technique to the standard sports scientists sort of massage and things. So we rotate the masseurs and masseuses to teach our people all the different types of massages, and qigong is a very good one too. So then we had the spa pools and hot tubs as well. Now these are the sustainable cities in paradise. Everything is free. You know, $3 billion for a live stream virtual reality music concert covers all these costs. We don't have to charge our people anything to live there. So the corporation pays for everything. Also, Japanese lean production we utilise. And as one of the keys is it's based on the Royal New Zealand Air Force. I served for 10 years. In the New Zealand Air Force, the bulk of the military personnel were employed at age 16, which is we're doing the same. At age 16, they're not into relationships, they haven't got any children, right? They're mobile. We can send them anywhere in the world with 2 hours notice, right? Accommodation is cheap. We have to supply them with a house. Just stick them in a room with someone else. Awesome, sweet. So it's based on that, and what people didn't realise that RNZAF base Auckland was actually Club Med. We had our own military personnel, right? Military base. We had an 18-hole golf course. We had our own yacht club with the club room actually on the jetty on the edge of the harbour. We had a big, humongous, we call it ramp, coming out of the water to bring the yachts ashore onto the dry dock. It was all free. We had our own ski lane, private ski lane with all the slalom course and everything in there, and the club room and the jetty. It's a new force base where you could keep your own aircraft on the base, your own hang gliders. It was Club Med. We had 2 lots of swimming pools, 2 lots of tennis courts. We had soccer fields, rugby fields. Mate, we had all sorts of things. It was Club Med, and the most advanced gymnasium. We had everything. It was Club Med, and that's what we're duplicating. Right, 80% of the recruitment will be age 16. So when our young people finish their training and they're ready to move into one of our projects, well, we just bring them in, they go to work, here you go, have fun. The thing about 16-year-olds, they're teachable, they're keen to learn, they're obedient, and they're mobile. Once they turn 16, they're into drugs and sex and getting pregnant, and the next thing, the boyfriend, he's paying them maintenance for the next 18 years. That's not smart business. you know, that bit of fun, or they've got an HIV or got herpes or whatever. That's going to wreck your future. So our objective is to prevent things from going wrong, right, and to improve their quality of life, right, and cure the cause of the problems. So what's the cause of the problems with ending up with children with no dad? Well, it's immorality. Why do it? If you're going to get pregnant, or you're going to have it even worse, an abortion. So, prevention is the way to go, folks. Get the right marriage mate for life and have the best time. Sex inside the marriage is far superior to sex outside the marriage, I'm telling you. Right, and you see, our sustainable nation building industry, it's a new and unique industry. It's not known out there. Right, we do low consumption, service and information based economies is what we build. And we do that through our debt-free, zero-emission green infrastructure projects, which are our sustainable villages, our sustainable cities in paradise. No use of fossil fuels, because we use monorail systems, we use high-speed ships, we use the flying boats on the rivers, right? So, and they're all outsourced, those services. But for the running of our communities, there's no fossil fuels, right? How wonderful is that? Now, how will people respond to this information that I've just given you here? There's different ways they'll respond. You have what we call the winners and we have the losers, right? And there's three types of people in this world. There's the ignorant. They fail to identify the threats. They refuse to listen. We're saying, mate, you'll lose your job next year. Nah, that's rubbish, right? They might have heard the threats, but they ignore it because they're ignorant. They're ignorant, they're not thinking about the welfare of their children. She'll be right, mate. That's what a lot of Aussies say. She'll be right. Well, she will be right. There's 6.5 million people homeless, 1 in 4. She will be right. So who cares? That's what another one says. Yeah, no, I've said to these rotten baby boomers, hey, don't you need to protect our environment for our children? I said, well, I'm not going to be alive. I'm going to be long dead. Why should I worry? What about your own children? No, don't worry about them. It's their problem. Who cares, right? They're ignorant, right? They're cynical, pessimistic. Or they're just going to total deny. No, it's never going to happen. Yeah, you took a load of rubbish. Because they see what they want to see. Ignorance. Obsessed in themselves and their lifestyles. They don't care about anyone else but themselves. Right? These are the clowns that will sit on the beach eating caviar and drinking wine when the tsunami warning siren goes. In Japan, if there's an earthquake offshore, automatically all the trains are stopped from running, because when the earthquake hits the coast, it's going to could wreck those railway lines and derail the train, kill all the passengers, or the tsunami could wipe everything out. So they have all these automatic systems and sirens going. People just flee, man. They run for high ground. But these clowns are going to sit on the beach and go, yeah, I'm not worried about this one. A load of rubbish that Hemi talks about. Yeah, being unemployed. I'm going to keep my job. Yeah, big surprise, surprise. They are going to get swamped. So the bottom line is, folks, they all starve to death, because that's what's going to happen. There's going to be no food. And the United Nations vision is to depopulate. It's not about saving our environment. It's nothing to do with it. It's about regionalisation, globalisation, one world government, militarised one world government with the 800 convenient US military bases around the world ready to move. Thank goodness for Donald Trump. Right, so the thing a lot of people have, so you got totally ignorant, now you get the totally deceived. Totally deceived. They are misled by the masters of deception, and here they are, the evil three politicians. According to the 2013 Global Corruption Barometer, the most corrupt organisation on the planet is politicians. Right, the second most corrupt is police. The third most corrupt is the judiciary system, and the other two are also politically linked. So you got the masters of deception, the politicians. They're going to say, oh yeah, this is a load of rubbish, this mass population displacement. No, it's climate change, because they want you all to believe in that, so they can put the one world government into power. Oh. The other ones are the religious leaders. They are teaching so much tribe. You know, life after death. teaching the Trinity, which is a blatant lie. Right? They just lie through their teeth about everything, religious leaders. And then you've got the third one, the wealthy elite, behind the 9/11, financed all the wars, ripping off all the indigenous peoples with their resources. The evil three, that's them, masters of deception. And then what we've got, we're totally deceived also by the nobles, who say they're all the experts on the economy, they're all the experts on sustainability. You know, they're from the royal family, and I say this, and this is how it works. All the so-called nobles. And you got all the business gurus that say, yeah, no, this is the word, the investing. Hey, look, mate, don't rent. You got to buy a home, get a mortgage. Yeah, my friends got sucked right in. And there's a couple I talked to who were married, and they got 2 children that were sitting there, and they were quite disturbed by what I had to say. I said, yeah, you need to get out of the contract, sell it, lipstick on the pig. So the business gurus, they're going to mislead you because they want to take your money. Totally deceived. Then you got the academics. Oh, I'm a professor and so and such. This is what's going to happen. Oh, yeah, what a load of rubbish. Mass population displacement is what's going to happen, right? The economists. Oh, we're the big economists. We know how to build economies. What a load of rubbish. Because they're going to go broke. And you got the lying mass media, media manipulation, propaganda, religious propaganda, political propaganda, all sorts of propaganda to manipulate your mind. Then you got all the industry experts. Oh, he's an industry expert on sustainability. You can talk to him. He knows everything about the industry. You got all these industry experts misleading. You become totally deceived by listening to the nobles, self-elevated or elevated by the UN, by the way. UN elevates people and stick them in an important position so everybody else gets sucked in, believing what these nobles say. And then you got the banks, man, they're the biggest crooks on the planet. Right? And you got all the lobby groups to totally deceive everybody because they're all politically motivated, linked to Agenda 21. And then you got all the climate deniers. You know, you got that horrible woman here, who's the richest Australian, Gina Reinhardt, pays $2.5 million a year for these climate deniers, well-known scientists, to lie through their teeth about climate. But climate change is not the problem. And I'll guarantee this time next year, Gina Reinhardt's going to be broke, because I know that the indigenous peoples are going to cut up her railway tracks because they're going through the sacred sites. There's a revolution happening out there at the moment inside the dark web where all the indigenous peoples have had enough. But now the spirits are calling for the sacred sites to be cleared of these railways. And when the spirits entice the people to cut those railway tracks up, they can do it. And kiss goodbye to Rio Tinto. And, you know, Gina Reinhardt might be the richest person in Australia, but she's going to be also one of the brokers next year because she's got something like $13 billion in debt. How are you going to pay the debt? If your rail line's been cut up, you can't get any iron on to the coast. Or your investors are going to pull out. How are you going to pay the debt? So she's going down tubes. And that'll teach you a lesson for going through the sacred sites. So these people are totally deceived. They believe anything that they're taught. They're really, really gullible. They don't research the facts. They get totally deceived. And if they do research, they get insufficient research or incorrect research because they talk to the wrong people. If you join our Indigenous Peoples Learning Network, we'll tell you who to talk to, who to believe. Keep it simple. Don't get immersed in all these climate change stuff. That's not the problem. The problem is, are you going to lose your job? Are you going to have an income? Are you going to have a home? That's what you've got to think about. Don't get caught up. Right? It's called distraction. And are you gullible? Do you believe anything? It's just sheer stupidity. Right? Do you believe in all the experts? We say, look, I'm not an expert. Don't talk to me. I'm just mentioning what Harry Dent said. And you're going to talk to Harry Dent and research all his videos and things, his books. Go to the experts. I'm not the expert. The experts come into our learning network and say, oh yeah, no, you got that one correct. And if I'm wrong, oh yeah, sorry, and apologise, and then we get the right facts out then. It's important to get accurate statistics. But then you have all the fear of criticism. So they believe what they're taught, and they're totally deceived because they dare to step outside the box and to challenge these so-called experts. And when they do, like that young girl Greta, whatever her name is, for the climate change, she's getting attacked by all the politicians. Now they're all running there in big time. That's what happens. Persecution. She's standing on the heat though. And then you got the real problem here. It's called tribalism. We've got a document on tribalism written by Richard C. Cook. You can check it online, and it is like the second best article I ever read. It's only second to the Bible. Tribalism. Read it. It's about lies and deception. It's about the tribe. The tribes are political tribes, commercial tribes, business tribes, indigenous tribes. There's all this tribalism, these, what do you call it? Hierarchical infrastructure where they're controlled by witch doctors, they're controlled by the leaders to think in a certain way. You're not allowed to think outside the box. You're not allowed to question what they're teaching you is correct or incorrect. And in our Maori culture, the Maoris don't like it when I challenge them. You say that it was a Maori fished the South Island out of the sea. That is a load of gobbledygook. Don't give me that rubbish, and you're not teaching my children that rubbish. That never happened. So I challenged them. But you see, then I get all the tribalism where all the tribes attack me, all the leaders attack me, because they're into tribalism. You obey what the tribe says. Well, I don't obey. I work outside the box, right? I've been a rebel all my life. So they never allow you to question, is that true or not true that it was fished out of the ocean? Well, it wasn't true, right? So you're under pressure to conform to the threats. Otherwise you get beaten, bashed, murdered or whatever. It depends. If you're in a gang, that's what happens. Pressure to conform. And then you got intergenerational lies and deception. From generation to generation, they're teaching the children lies. That the South Island of New Zealand was fished out of the sea by Maori, a fisherman. That's lies and deception, folks. How long are we going to keep doing intergenerational lies and deception? Totally misled, totally deceived. It's got to stop. It's this fear. It's fear of going to jail. It's fear of death, fear of the future, fear of loss of love, fear of criticism, fears. And there's all the superstitions. This is one thing I challenged Mary's on. When they had so many damn superstitions, and when I was 8 years of age, I went, mate, there's so many damn superstitions out people believe in. I'm going to die. So I went and I did all the opposite, because I was a rebel. I was, hello, they're not true, I haven't died. So these superstitions, in my little mind, was a load of rubbish. Superstition, fear-based, tribalism, folks. You're going to flick them. You don't need to believe in superstition because it's not true, right? Religious propaganda is the classic. These horrible, evil religions teaching their rubbish. Political propaganda, the political agenda linked to it. That's why we don't get involved in religion and politics. We don't stop people from worshipping the God they want to worship. Well, you can do it in your apartment using virtual reality. You can go to your church or your mosque or wherever in virtual reality. You can't tell the difference between being in there and in that church or not being in there. Do it in your own time. Worship your God the way you want to worship, but you don't preach it in our communities because it causes divisions. And we're corporate owned and operated precincts. There's no churches, there's no mosques. We're not here to build those for you, and see you later if you think we're going to do that. It's never going to happen. As we said, there's 3 types of people. The third one is the educated and informed, and that's what you are for taking the time. I've spoken for 2 hours, you've sat there, you've become educated and informed. Good on you, well done, right? And it's good to sit right through and take in everything and then go through it again, take notes, go do the research, come into our website and then everything's fully functional, go and check the research out. Don't waste your time going to the wrong people. So, you've got to be educated by people with the honesty and integrity, and you see who's coming in to take over my corporation as I step out. They have the utmost honesty and integrity. You will be so impressed with them. Also, there's no deception found in them. And if they have been teaching something wrong, which they have, and I challenged our CEO, he said, oh, is that right? Oh, can't teach that anymore. I said, no, bro, don't teach it, it's a lie. Right? When you've got decent, good-hearted people at the helm, it attracts decent, good-hearted people. If you start off a gang with the real mean, nasty, cruel people, who are you going to attract? Like minds, cruel, nasty people. Yeah, we involve with them. You want decent, good-hearted people. From there, it grows, it attracts all the decent, good-hearted people, and then you run it through a parallel web with our website, and based on the Hyperborea model, where it's 3x3 referral only. That's how you can get into our sustainable village, sustainable cities. It'll be done by referral only, and we'll choose who the first 3 we want next year, and then from there they can start bringing on all their friends, and then all their friends and all their friends. Right? Decent, good-hearted people. That'll be for the 16-year-olds, what we call the DigiGen. They're the digital generation driving social media, age 6 to 16. So the thing about good-hearted, decent people, if they're wrong, they'll admit it. If I said to them, man, that rubbish you teach about your religion, bro, it's a load of rubbish, and they go down and read the Bible and go, oh, it is a load of rubbish, they change their attitude and their belief. And they start teaching honest things, not deception. You know, will they continue living the lie? You know, when people say to me, climate change is number one, no, cut it out. It's mass population displacement. I've just proven it, haven't I? You're teaching a lie. You need to change. Stop deceiving people. You're working for in the benefit of the United Nations with their one world government. Stop deceiving people. Right, do your thorough research. It gives you peace of mind. If you know that I'm telling you the truth, you go and check all those stats that I put into this PowerPoint presentation. And challenge the status quo. Challenge the tribalism. Don't accept it. That's why they get away with doing what they do in manipulating and controlling the minds and the hearts of their followers. Stand by honesty and integrity. You don't have to stoop, and don't compromise your integrity under any conditions. Be a winner, not a loser. What will the losers do? Losers will lose. That's what's going to happen. 6.5 million Australians, 1 in 4, going to be homeless next year. Losers. If they stick with Agenda 21 and they're not living in one of our safe nations throughout the frontier and emerging markets who have told the UN to get stuff, they have no part of it, so they're not under the international laws, and you're going to lose everything. They're going to take it. Watch Agenda 21 by Rosa Kior, 20-minute video on YouTube. So the recommended next step, contact the person who sent you this link. Brainstorm with them. Prepare a critical survival plan. We have another video. You can go through it. Not going to cost you anything. Just go through the critical part of the survival planner. We're asking these questions to consider how to survive. Right? And remember, when I did preach, we had to ask questions to get you to think for yourself, for goodness sake. And then how to develop a wealth creation plan. How to capitalise on the stock market crash. Because remember, all stock market crashes, people capitalised on it and became filthy rich. Filthy rich by solving people's problems, improving their quality of life. If we took someone out of a slum, someone off the streets, who's homeless, put them in a sustainable village where everything was free, they're back with their Indigenous brothers and sisters, their relatives, on their Indigenous lands in paradise. How happy will they be? Right? How wonderful would their life be? You can work out a plan. And what you got to do, folks, is what I said before with the little girl. She won Best Surgeon. Do your happy training curriculum. Find your major goal in life. Do the 10-point plan, and we'll look after you from there. Right? Okay. And now, cryptocurrency is the way to go, but not Bitcoin. That's a trap. Anything to do with mining is a trap. There's 900 different cryptocurrencies that you can tap into, and we'll show you which ones. And we're not going to tell you to do it. We're going to question you and say, go and listen to this guy, come back to us and tell us whether it's a load of garbage or not. All right? And when you've got a million people doing that research and coming back to you and say, this is the best one, you get your answer. You really don't do anything. Now, what sort of wise investments? Growth equity is the one. We're building sustainable villages, sustainable cities. We need to develop also the high-tech manufacturing hubs, and in those manufacturing hubs, We have the first tier, second tier supply chains, right? Those are the things to invest in, because you're going to make money out of every product that's made through those manufacturing chains, as well as the cross equity across the first tier and the second tier supply chain. So any company within the whole supply chain network, you're making money from the cross holdings, and up to the cyclical regional company, up to our parent company, and also to our resources companies. So growth equity is what you really want to look at if you're an investor. Don't invest in the stock markets and all the rubbish, right? Invest in the supply chains. And remember, with the supply chains, they're meeting our demand as we're building thousands of sustainable villages, hundreds of sustainable cities simultaneously throughout the frontier emerging markets. And that's what's going to be happening in the future, all right? And the other thing you want to invest in is social capital. We'll cover that another time. Recommend the next step. Well, for your big tech companies from Silicon Valley, here's what you need to do. Prepare your critical survival plan. Have a look at our critical survival plan questions. Discuss it with your corporate teams, and also the wealth creation plan, how you can capitalise on it through the manufacturing hubs. And then you got products to sell. And then you might want to order a sustainable city in paradise. You got 100,000 personnel. You want us to build your city? We can build your city. Beautiful, with the monorails and the compact communities. And you can bring in all your corporate launches and everything else. We'll work together. We're happy to work with you. Right, we can build. Have a look at our video called Sustainable Cities in Paradise. It can blow you away. Order yourself a sustainable city in a safe nation that we've already researched. They have a high peace index. There is no conflicts of religious conflicts, indigenous conflicts, racial conflicts. They're not manufacturing weapons of war like Australia does. They're not at war with anybody, right? Peace, high peace index, low corruption index, and that's how you get the low corruption index. You find that through the indigenous peoples, because they'll tell you who the crooked cops are. They'll tell you who the crooked politicians are, right? Because of the underworld. That's how you find out. Not through the corruption barometer, 2030 corruption barometer. That's only the perspective of corporates. But they don't know the real truth. They don't know if the leader is actually corrupt. And then what we do is we challenge the leaders and say, look, we'll send our corporate profilers in, and they can do an ethics test on you. And the ethics test will show whether he's a liar, thief, or a cheat. Because if they are a liar, thief, or a cheat, it'll come up in the ethics profile. And as soon as we know, and you see, the ones who are not ethical, they won't do it. So Australia, don't go to that country. The ones who are ethical and honest, they'll say, no, I'll do it. I'm confident, I'll get a good reading. And they're the ones you work with. And if the man at the top, the president, is willing to do that, you can work with his country. And we, because we're taking the people off the street, putting them to homes, putting them to work in the high-tech manufacturing hubs, we're building the sustainable villages or compact communities on the sides of the manufacturing plants, so for their personnel to work in. So we're reducing unemployment, we're reducing homelessness, we're building the economies. It's what we call sustainable nation building. Got rid of the fossil fuels. Right, and the high cost infrastructure. So order yourself a sustainable city in paradise with us. And in a safe nation, because you don't want to build it in a nation like Mugabe, and you're white, you're going to take everything you own once you build it, which is what Mugabe did, didn't it? But not only that, Mugabe, what he did, a friend of mine lived in Africa, he's a white fella, him and his family fled that country, Zimbabwe, because the AIDS epidemic came out, and he said, Mugabe said to all the people with AIDS, you've been cursed. The way to solve that problem and break free of the AIDS virus is go and rape a white woman. Mate, they followed, and of course all the white people fled out of Zimbabwe, left their farms. Mugabe stepped in and took the lot. This is how it works. Corrupt politicians. So you don't go into a nation that's not a safe nation. We'll give you the nations to go into. The other thing too is we don't sell things, we create queues of having all these nations wanting us to come in rather than us selling, right? So we're saying to the nation, we've got a leader with integrity. We're saying, listen, we need our own state inside your nation, because the 13 wealthiest families in the world have their own state within different nations. We want the same, so that we have our own sovereignty, which means we don't have to put in permits, building permits, because we already know how to look after the environment. We don't need to do an environmental impact permit to be cleared by EU, because we already know how to do that. That's what we do. Less than 1% impact on the environment to build a sustainable city inside a tropical forest. If we're doing that, we must be the masters of sustainability, right? To do that, using monorails, compact communities, high-speed shipping, and transport-orientated developments. So, with our own state, we don't need. We are the law, so we don't make any of those laws. We don't need an environment lawyers. Got rid of those lot. We don't need any international lawyers or accountants, because you can drive the whole lot off software. And the thing is this, is that with our own state, first thing we're going to say is zero tax, mate. All the Silicon Valley corporations going to flood in massive queue, ordering these sustainable cities in paradise with a humongous upfront payment. You see, because the lithium is very important, right, for the automobile industry, which is going to go bankrupt. But what happened is the Volkswagen paid some lithium producers 300 billion upfront to secure supply of lithium. That's of no value when the automobile industry is going bankrupt. But we can say to a big tech company, well, not only can we build and bring your valuable human capital into one of our safe nations with zero tax. You don't pay tax anymore, brother. We'll set up the high-tech manufacturing hubs so that you don't have 90% of your products being manufactured in China. It was going broke, and then you're going broke too. $1 trillion Apple company down the tubes, right? No, we'll manufacture the whole lot. Also, the resources we get from our indigenous brothers who got the resources, who we know got it, because our satellite technology with the nuclear photography told us they've got lithium under their land. We're just saying, we know you got lithium there, so let's do a joint venture, bro. Can I have the tenement for that? Because we gave you a sustainable village. What are they going to say? Of course, you get my brother, you looked after our children too. And this is the way you do it. So, state-owned sovereignty, we zero tax, bring in all the big corporations with all the big money. Big money. All right. So, we can move along here. I'm running out of battery today. So, zero corporate tax. How wonderful is that? Zero corporate tax. So, when you have zero corporate tax, what's going to happen? All right, I'm just going to put the battery charge on. What's going to happen is you're going to get all these corporates coming in. All right, corporates coming in to, moved it. Corporates coming in, right, to your nation, to the safe nation. Everybody wins. Right, finance and technology transfer in the billions. It's in everybody's interest to build these manufacturing hubs. And resources security from the indigenous peoples, because we're building for them. Consolidate the resources on a global scale. And when we do that, and we've got in among there the 33 critical minerals that Mr. Trump needs, you just slam a trade embargo on America if he doesn't shut down those 800 military bases. Slam a trade embargo on it, you got no critical minerals to keep the American economy functioning. So we set up a multinational quasi-independent organisation corporate structure with the cross-holdings across the first tier, second tier supply chains and up and across the 6 world regional companies for the 6 regions of the world according to the UN. It's been divided. So growth equity on steroids from the cross-holdings is where you need to look at, folks. So for you people here in Australia or around the world, you're going to look at what are the chances of keeping your job. If 2 out of 3 people become unemployed, how can you earn a passive income and be unaffected by this stock market? That's good, isn't it? How can you capitalise on the stock market crash. We'll teach you those. And what extra education do you need? Can you get an employment and habitation contract with us? And what organisations are there that can help you? So the choice is yours. The thing is this, you can fly with the eagles, right? You're going in and you're swimming in with fish. So the eagles, they cruise the sky, the wind lifts them and they float on the air. They hardly flap their wings because they drift on the air currents. So you fly with the eagles, life's easy. They can see alongside a fish or an animal that they can go and capture a piece of game. The other choice you got is you can walk around the barnyard with the turkeys, right? They're fenced in. They're fenced into their little worlds. And being in the barnyard, they're doing their jobbies on the floor, on the ground, they walk through it. That's what people are doing. They're walking through their own poo-poos, trapped in their own little worlds. So the thing about successful people, we do the things that unsuccessful people don't do. Step outside the box, folks. Be different. Now, just in finishing, I just want to say this. This is Maylands, where we live. And this is our local civic centre. It's beautiful, isn't it? $14 million. There's the inside, spiral staircase going up to all the convention rooms and things. Isn't that wonderful? This is the fourth most desired suburb in Australia. We're close to the city, we're close to the river. The river's clean, it's beautiful. And we're close to the railway line. So we've got the best of everything, and we've got all these flash buildings going up all over the place. Now, think about Maylands. That's inside the big gymnasium, by the way. That's our library. Isn't that lovely? Now, just to finish up, this interesting here, this is Lyric Lane. Lyric Lane is actually a nightclub. See, because we're close to the city, everybody has to go into the rotten Northbridge. It was full of crime and drugs at night, and there's a high chance of getting your bashed up or robbed. So here in Maylands, it's really quite a really trendy area, and they won't let people, the low-income people in the area, to rent the housing, and the houses are 4 times the price what they used to be. But it's a lovely area with lots of lovely families and a lovely primary school, and I live near the primary school. It's wonderful hearing the children come past in the mornings, skipping, singing, chatting away to their parents on their way to school. And beautiful having children in the community. So, but Lyric Lane is this nightclub which we never had in Maylands. So it's like, a nightclub, how exciting! In Maylands, we knew it would be a real classy one, and it is. So, and they had the signage out 2 years ago, coming soon. So everyone was waiting for it. There were articles in the local newspaper about this nightclub and where they're building it, so people kept reading. Took 2 years. They kept saying, coming soon. So there was this great expectation, and then when it did open on the launch day, which was on a Wednesday night, right? And that wasn't the nightclub. The nightclub is downstairs. It's still going to be open yet. The cafe opened. It was packed out on a Wednesday night. Packed out. I turned up 4 nights later, and it was packed out still. And I said, how come you got so many people in your cafe? Well, there it is, coming in the back entrance. That's the back entrance. How nice is that? This is inside. It's quite long, and it's beautiful. And very trendy. Nice bars and things. And it was packed out, and it was packed out on the 4th night. I said, how come you were packed out? And they said, well, we were promoting it for 2 years. So there was an expectation, and when we opened, everyone was excited. They all rocked up. Got a nice vibe, nice music, upmarket, clean, spotless, beautiful, good quality food. Everything's going for them. So, we're doing the same. We've been promoting what we've been doing to our friends who've been very loyal to us. Now we've got the website, which has been built over 2 years, and we're saying, there's our website, ibalien.net. You can subscribe to it, and there it is, right? It flicks between these two on the home page here. The thing about this website is we haven't put all the content in it because we've got to get all the indigenous tribes around the world to come into a webinar and tell us what they want us to put on the website for their villages, right? And tell us what services they want, education for the children from pre-primary to primary, that they can put into the headsets, the VR, AR headsets. Do you want us to deliver to you a primary school in a shipping container with a editing suite for videos and music, with a composting toilet, with a shower? And I'm talking about a mud hut village here, folks. We dropped this school in a shipping container in with all the panels put together very quickly, passive solar design building with the classroom, with all fold-up furniture and everything, nice kitchen, everything else. Whereas it's a mud hut village with no electricity. Now we're giving them solar. So they're going to tell us what they want in the way of pre-primary education. We put it through in English, they transfer it into their first native language for their children to teach their children. All the secrets of permaculture, organic gardening, animal husbandry, aquaculture, social sustainability, goal setting, the happy training curriculum that we have for the children, all these things. Secondary education, what do you want? University education, what do you want? Trades. So we will provide this. They can then tell us, how do you want the website restructured? Because we're putting a massive digital infrastructure back in that's got, plus more coming in, cloud-based communication systems and monitoring systems, etc. And once all the Indigenous peoples tell us how to modify it, because the learning networks teach you, there are no gurus, it's the learning network teaches you what to do, what to change. So when they tell us how to modify the website to suit all Indigenous tribes, because it's done in open source code, I can provide that code and duplicate the entire website, particularly for Zimbabwe or Zambia or the Philippines. The whole structure is there, they just modify it. You fellas run it over there, link it through to our main one. Right, your region of the world, you run it. I got the open source code, I can pass it to you. So this is why we haven't put all the content up there, because we don't know what they want. We're only finding out those answers through the webinars, okay? So don't worry about that. What we're doing is the same as what our lovely cafe, Lyric Cafe, did 2 years. You know, my nephews and nieces have been waiting almost 2 years. I'm saying, well, when are you going to pull this thing off? We're ready. And all my friends, when are you going to pull this thing off? When we're ready. Right, the signs are out there, we're doing everything, it's all coming together in the right timing. We're doing what Lyric Lane did. So we are the marketing arm for the Indigenous Peoples Learning Network, for the sustainable nation building industry, transforming nations into low consumption, service and information based economies, zero emissions. Right? So it took 2 years to build this website in India with the help of the Russians. Massive back-end infrastructure, able to handle 2 billion visitors per day, because I said I want it built in such a way we can have a shot at Facebook and grab all their clients. Right, so we're using open source code. Tali, we're using open source code, so we can give you the code, you can duplicate our website. So, as I say, we're customising it by the webinars for the Indigenous peoples with a prototype ready to be duplicated all around the world. So tell your friends to subscribe, and also we want you to keep a record of who you refer through to our website. Now on the website you can subscribe today. We're not selling anything but the subscriptions, and for the subscriptions we're going to provide you all the information for free, a lot of information for free to help you to prepare for the worst of what's coming in the future. Now see where the arrow is there? It says my account. Just go to my account on the website and then subscribe. Now if you can show us a healthcare card or social security card and say, I live in a low income area, I live in a slum, and you can prove to us that that is your situation, or you can go to your school principal and he writes a note to give to us, or to your local MP and they clarify that you are indeed impoverished, then you can have your subscription for free, because we have wealthy people who will pay your subscription for the next 12 months at $12 a month, like Spotify would normally be $144, but it'll be $99 for you, and it'll be paid by someone else, because the only possible way you will get out of a slum, out of a low income area, out of a low income family, is through education. And if we are charging you for the education that you can't afford on even the subscription to the website, because you won't be able to pay the next one next month and you get cut off, it's automated, that's no good. But if one of our lovely sponsors sponsors you, pays the $99 up front, you are right, you can learn, you qualify like that little girl to be a surgeon, do the happy training curriculum, we can then slot you in so when you turn 16, we can set you up for life with a lifetime cradle to grave employment and habitation contract. So now there's two screens, it flicks between one to the other, but just look for the My Account, subscribe if you can afford it, and we just like to say thank you very much. We are here to help you, and just remember what our vision is. We got 6.5 million children and their families are going to be homeless this time next year. So we're here to help you with the sustainable villages, sustainable cities in paradise. Thank you very much for your time. And remember our vision, to create a happy future for our children and for our children's children, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous. Thank you.